Today I'm going to show you how to turn this into this. First things first, wash your veggies. I personally just use warm water and a high-powered shower spray faucet, and then I rinse them off with my reverse osmosis water spigot. Now cut the top and bottom off the onion, then place it on a flat side and cut down the middle. Then peel off the outermost layer. I find it easier to peel the outermost layer that's edible rather than fiddling with trying to just peel off the thin, crinkly wrapping. It saves time and effort, and you don't lose out on much of the onion. Dice them down and add to the pot. For each bell pepper, cut down the middle from one side of the stem to the other, but only penetrating the vegetable slightly, so that you avoid the seeds. Rip it in half, and then dispense with all of the seeds. Dice it down just like you did with the onion, but pay extra attention not to cut yourself because the bell pepper's a little bit slippery. And now on the last bell pepper, the pot is looking beautiful. Another way to enhance your cooking experience is by listening to a podcast while you dice the veggies. Any way you can make the experience pleasurable, you're more likely to do it. I personally listen to Joe Rogan, I really like Lex Fridman, and then different audiobooks. I mean, you can't, it's hard to go wrong. Before you cut into the jalapenos, I recommend you put on some gloves. I didn't do that this time, and my ears and lips were burning every time I touched them, even the next day after washing my hands multiple times. Learn from my mistake so you don't have to experience it. And right here you can see that the jalapeno dicing is the same, but on the next level, to dice them down even smaller, a different technique is called for, where you place your hand on the tip of the knife, and then like a water sprinkler, you dice from one side to the other in a circular fashion. You can use this technique for any kind of herbs or just anything smaller that you really need to dice down to a fine mince. And now, with all of the vegetables cut, add in about a half cup of water and set to medium. Next up is the minced garlic. I like to buy it in one of these bottles here. You can do it the old-fashioned way and buy the cloves and peel and cut it up and mince it just like you do with the onions, but it is so arduous and time-consuming that I cannot justify it. Considering you can buy the minced bottle, that is the way that I always go. And we'll wait about 3 to 5 minutes before stirring the vegetables, and in the meantime we'll get started on the meat. And so first we will throw on some gloves. These are the same gloves that I would have recommended for the jalapenos, but especially for anyone that has been doing something like hard manual labor with your hands, or me as a rock climber, if you're doing things that can cause cuts, little abrasions in your hands. You don't want all of that bacteria from the meat getting inside of the fingers. So be sure to protect yourself and throw on some gloves. And give it a whiff, make sure it smells okay. Meat in and of itself has a particularly weird smell. But if you smell anything that is very sour or sweet or just, something that seems off, it probably is. It's better to be safe than sorry. If somebody's around, get them to smell it. 2 noses are better than 1. With both meats in the pan, we are gonna put the heat on medium. And then get to mashing, break it up into little pieces that are about 1 inch in size. You don't need to worry about getting it really small for now to get it into ground meat. There is a tool for that here soon. This process usually takes me about 2 minutes, and then once that's done, lose the gloves. Give the veggies a good stir, and now we wait. You can either get right to cleaning up or take a break. With the cilantro, I personally think it is a much more pleasurable experience to de-stem them. So rip off all of the leaves from each stem, and then we'll use that same technique you learned earlier in order to really mince it down to a fine mince. But before we can fully get into that, it's time to flip the meat and brown the other side. You can go ahead and stir the veggies while you're at it. And this is actually pretty easy, isn't it? We're almost done. And back over to the cilantro with it fully de-stemmed. It's a bit of a tedious process, but still easy. And we do the sprinkler method. Now we jump back over to the meat. You want to make sure that it's all very evenly cooked. You don't want to leave any part of it possibly raw, so look closely and really focus on flipping the parts that need to be flipped. And this little handy tool is called a meat chopper or a meat masher. It makes the whole process so much easier, but make sure you wait until the meat is at least like halfway done, because if you try to use it when it's raw, the meat will just stick to it and it's messy. But if you wait until about halfway through, it's a much cleaner job and it goes a lot faster. And I'll leave a link to one in the description box below. And now give the veggies another stir, and just pay attention to if they're softening up. That's how you know when they're reaching their completion. At this point, I usually add in just a little bit of water to the meat to keep it from burning. At this point, the veggies are really nice and soft, so it's time to turn off the heater. Take the veggies off the burner. And Now give the meat one last stir, and if it seems nice and well done to you, give it a taste test. That's some good shit. And while adding the eggs, I simply just break them right there on the stove. It's a little bit of a cleanup, but I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Just make sure that you don't get any of the shells in the meat. Pay attention to each one. If you see anything, make sure you pick it out. And that's the last of the eggs. I generally wash my hands a little bit right here because there's egg yolk all over them. And this is the part where it becomes really handy to have a non-stick pan. You're ready to go ahead and start stirring them up. But yeah, if you don't have a non-stick pan, they're going to stick. So pay a little extra money, get one of those, make your life a whole lot easier. At this point, I typically add in about a half tablespoon of salt, but that's because I don't eat a lot of processed foods. I do a lot of home cooking. Keep in mind that if you eat a lot of processed foods like pizza, deli meats, cheese, and fast foods, including restaurants, you are probably getting too much salt. Just 1 teaspoon of salt is equivalent to 2,300 milligrams, which is likely more than you should be consuming. The FDA estimates that the average American consumes about 3,400 milligrams a day. And if that's you, then try it without the salt. I bet it'll still be absolutely delicious. Now stir up the eggs again. This is a highly preferential thing. I personally don't like runny eggs. Runny eggs gross me out. So I go for, I wait until the underside is a little bit brown. And that gives it a little bit of a toasty taste to it. I like it that way. Once you can tell it's done, turn off the burner, and then mix it up a little bit to make it easier to add to the other pot. Add the cilantro, mix it up, and sound the alarm. You're done. Whenever you're ready to eat, cut up the avocado. I'll show you how to do that expert-like. Cut down the middle, get rid of the seed, and then create a grid pattern where you're cutting a bunch of different lines vertically and then horizontally. And once you're done with that grid pattern, then you can just squeeze it out and it's already in little bite-sized pieces.
Magnifico.